Hi, everybody. It's Joel Whitaker, editor of Kane's Beverage News Daily and host of the Beverage Barons podcast series. And today we are talking with Jessica Kogan, who is the Chief Marketing Officer and the Chief Digital Officer for Vintage Wine Estates. I would think either one of those titles would be enough to keep somebody busy, but she's got both, and that may explain that she's thin, or it may explain she gets no sleep. I don't know which. And of course, since we're doing this by Zoom, we can't tell if anything I just said is true about Jessica, except the titles. So Jessica, it's good to have you with us. And
thank you for having me. And yes, I don't sleep at all.
So tell us a little bit about, let's start off by just, for anybody who doesn't know, tell us about Vintage Wine Estates. Who are you? Where are you from? You're recently gone public, if I recall correctly. So
That's
let's
correct.
start right there.
So Vintage Wine Estates is the brainchild of Pat Roney, who's the CEO of the company and probably the head of the board at this point. He started the company about 20 years ago with an acquisition of Gerard Winery. He came from Dean and DeLuca, where he was the president, and built a relationship with Leslie Rudd, who was the owner then. In purchasing Gerard, he partnered with Leslie Rudd, and basically from then on went on kind of a buying splurge of valuable wineries, valuable assets to build out the portfolio of Vintage Wine Estates. And the idea was that the platform and structure that he had created within the organization was strong enough to bring in these organizations, find efficiency with them, yet maintain their unique brand character. And today we are a total of 14 unique estates, winery estates and winery brands, about 30 unique lifestyle brands. And the business is quite interesting in terms of its structure, different than a Duckhorn, who is also public, who is kind of focused on one individual piece of their business, very wholesale focused. VWE is a third. So a third of our business is actually direct to consumer, which is a fast growing part of our business. A third is production related, and a third is wholesale related. So it's a really well diversified business, and going public made total sense in terms of what the company wants to do, both in organic growth and in future acquisitions.
Well, I'm tempted to ask you about future acquisitions, but if you know, you'll probably say I can't talk. So
I never know until I'm told, and I'm like, oh.
That's the best way to keep a secret, frankly. Truth be known.
Yes,
So Vintage recently announced something that I thought was sort of cool, namely a Vintage shareholder program for people who have stock in the company. And as an introduction to talking about that, I recall back many years ago, it was a standard feature on the front page of the Wall Street Journal every 2 or 3 years to have a little story, usually an A-head, you know, those cute little quirky stories about this company or that company was giving out rewards to their shareholders, coupons from Procter & Gamble bound into the annual report, you know, or discounts on t-shirts from somebody or something or other. But your program, and I'm going to let you talk to about tell us as much as you will. Your program is somewhat different. You're not offering coupons bound into the annual report. Of course, they're now digital anyway, probably, but you're offering something else. So tell us about your program. Tell us how it came to be, what benefits you expect to get from it, etc.
Well, I mean, the idea was that if you looked at the landscape of investors in wine-related stocks, adult beverage stocks, the idea is that whether you're an institutional investor or retail investor, you probably have an interest in wine at some level, and in consuming wine. And so our theory was, if we build a really cool program that rewards shareholders for their participation, perhaps these shareholders will then, beyond owning shares in the company, will also buy our wines, and we will give them special benefits for being a shareholder to buy our wines. Very simple premise. So talking to Pat, he's like, you know, I think it would be really cool for us to set something up like this. And I said, you know what, what's really great is we can set this up digitally, because I am a digital person. We can build a site in which we can support shareholders to participate and register for this program, and then give them back the perks of owning shares within Vintage Wine Estates. And so that was really the genesis of the program. And we created basically two very simple tiers, because not everybody is going to want to buy, a whole bunch of shares to participate. So we created two tiers. The first is the gold tier. And in order to participate in the gold tier, you need to own 500 shares of Vintage Wine Estates stock. And to participate in the platinum tier, you need to own 1,000 shares of Vintage Wine Estate stock. And the premise, again, is that if you own these shares, which are verified through our encrypted systems, if you are able to become a member, you then benefit by receiving a discount that is on par with participating in a wine club. If you wanted to participate in a wine club, you could enter that way without owning shares. But if you do own shares, you can participate in that everyday wine club discount, which is usually about 25% for the highest level wine club member, which we tier as well based on their relationship with Vintage Wine Estates. And in our shareholder program, for gold, it's 15%. For platinum, it's 25%. In addition, you get 2 semi-annual events for both gold and platinum, where we take you through a flight of wines from our estates led by our incredible winemakers. You can participate in person, or you can join us by Zoom if that works for you, because our shareholders come from all over the country. And then every year, kind of similar to Berkshire Hathaway, we have one annual event. And that event is where we invite all of our shareholders to come and spend the day with us at one of our estates and really learn more about what we do and how we do it. And that includes Pat speaking, our incredible president, Terry Wheatley speaking, and also all of the folks who help bring to life all of our amazing wines. So from our top winemakers to those who work in production to even our brand ambassadors. So it's just a really fun way to get involved with your investment. And even better, like the plus is that if you enjoy wine, it's even better. So that's really the genesis of the Passport program. And it's just rocking. People love it. Our shareholders are loving it.
So let's see, what is a share of Vintage Wine Estates trade at right now, roughly?
I believe, so the market was down last week, but typically it's at around 10.20, 10.30.
So let's see, 500 times 10 is $5,000 to take part in the program, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not for the mom and pop guy who wants to buy 2 shares and thereby get in on the deal.
Right.
Which for a while was what you could do with Marriott's program when they had discounts for shareholders. You could get in for literally as little as I think 2 shares. They changed that, but
we feel that this is a good number, because we're really looking at people who I think at the 500 tier level, it's the retail buyer, right? It's somebody who, like you and I, who are really into wine, who do invest in the stock market, bits and pieces. It's a really fun way to get them. It's a really cool way to get involved with a whole bunch of awesome benefits that you don't get from any other wine company. At the 1,000 level, I think we're really talking about institutional investors who are looking to invest in adult beverage companies that have good holdings. And this is just another way to I guess, find the return of that benefit, to find the return of that ownership. And at the end of the day, our hope is that all our investors come away from this program, being our greatest advocates and going out there and telling everybody, hey, you got to buy some stock in this company and join this program, because I'm tasting some amazing wines and I've met some great winemakers. And also, whenever I'm in Napa and Sonoma, they do my itinerary for me. that's the other piece I forgot to mention. For our platinum shareholders, we will set up a VIP itinerary for them twice a year to come visit all of our tasting rooms.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I think you're a pretty good marketer. Yeah, right?
I mean, you got to make it worth your time. Listen, we all have very little time in this, at least for me and the people I work with, we're always time crunched. How about not worrying when you go to Napa and Sonoma that you're going to get like a great reservation and be treated like, super, super well. And that really is a great benefit of this program. I mean, you don't have to worry about it at all. And there's 7 different estates within Napa and Sonoma owned by Vintage Wine Estates that are all fabulous that you could spend 2 to 3 days at just visiting and tasting.
So no t-shirts as part of the package?
Not yet, no t-shirts, but we do have a website where that is for our VWE shareholders. And it's just vwepassport.com. And that is where our shareholders can log in and they can see their entire profile. They can see the wines that they have purchased. They can book reservations at any of our tasting rooms. And they're also provided really very, very highly customized opportunities that are not given to other wine customers because of their ownership of stock in the company.
Well, that's very clever. Now, I have to ask you this question. If a lot of people, especially at your bronze level, would want to, or is it gold level? Gold level,
Gold.
500 shares, gold level, would want to perhaps own their shares through a broker like Schwab or somebody like that. Are they able to take part in this?
Yes, absolutely. So essentially when you, so if you go to the VWE corporate website, which is just vintagewineestates.com, you will select investors and there's a drop down that says passport. If you are interested in participating in the program, you first need to register with us. Then in another email, we ask you to provide documentation of your ownership of the shares. And it can come from any retail company where you hold your shares. We ask you to upload a copy of your ownership into an encrypted system. It's a server that we do not own, and we verify the ownership, and then that documentation is destroyed. We then ask you to update us every quarter with your ownership of our stock. So that's
Very
basically
clever.
how it works.
Yeah, very clever. So I'm thinking off the top of my head that if somebody wanted to get your 500 share minimum, but didn't want to put out $5,000 in cash, they could probably do it on a margin account for 2,500 and borrow the other 2,500 from their brokers. So that's not as steep an entry process as it might sound like.
I like how you think.
Or if they want to put 5,000 in, they could get to your other level.
Or they can wait, or they can play the market and wait for the market to go up and down and kind of go from that perspective. All I'll say is that we really believe very strongly in and why we came up with this program, that we want investors who really enjoy this industry and enjoy the business and enjoy the products of this business. Agriculture can be a funky thing to some people. Sometimes Mother Nature is loving, sometimes Mother Nature is not so loving, but ultimately, we are in the business of adult beverage and wine, and there is a pleasure in that. And so we really wanted to introduce that pleasure to our shareholders so that they look at us more as a long-term play versus a short-term play.
Well, yes, and by the 2 shipments a year, I think you probably ensure that at least some of them will definitely be a long-term play. So So that's a really good thing. I think it's very, very clever.
The
And
other thing I wanted to mention, I think is really important, and I think you and I feel this naturally because we're inside the industry, is community. And this shareholder passport program really is around creating community with these shareholders as well. So kind of how Berkshire Hathaway has all these people come to their event. The idea for us is that all these folks who own shares in vintage wine estates are wine drinkers and enjoy wine. And that is a community unto itself. And so it really is an invitation to participate at that level. So just wanted to add that in.
yeah, well, it's very clever and very smart. I think it's a terrific marketing tool, and I suspect it's a terrific shareholder retention tool also. Now, let's see. And as far as you know, Vintage is the only people that are doing this?
That I know of right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Within our industry.
yeah, be prepared for imitators.
As they say, it's the best form of flattery, right?
Exactly.
I could tell you how many imitators we've had over the years. It's been interesting. Yeah.
If you have not trademarked shareholder passport, do it.
Do it. All right. Good.
Okay.
Good to know.
That's
good to
free
know.
legal advice from a retired lawyer.
I appreciate it. No, that's good to know.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, since I gather you're the person that came up with the idea.
I did. I did.
So how did you get into marketing? Where did you go to school? Tell us your life story.
Sure. Let me try and wrap it up in like a 30-second nutshell. Oh, that's impossible. Do you have all day? We'll do all day.
Okay.
All right. So I actually am from Washington, D.C., as we were just talking before, where you're located in Maryland. I went to college in New York City. I went to NYU, where I worked in the fashion industry for quite a few years at this brand called Donna Karan. I helped launch her, and I loved it. I then worked a lot with kind of cosmetic and fashion brands, reinvigorating their images. Elizabeth Arden was one of my big brands that I reinvigorated, Dr. Scholl's, and then eventually launched a cosmetics line called Urban Decay, which was then acquired by LVMH. I then decided to go into the digital world. I am one of those like way back people from 1998, where I worked at a company called Razorfish, and I helped design and build some websites that are still in existence today, including Schwab.com, the first iteration of it, and for the Southern Poverty Law Center, Tolerance.org. I then decided, and I was also building all the stationery sites for Prada, Gucci, Armani, Giorgio Armani, because I came from a fashion background. I then moved to San Francisco with Razorfish, and at the time, my partner was looking at the wine industry and was very interested in starting his own company. And I said, "Well, tell me a little bit about the company. I don't know anything about wine, but just tell me about it." And he said, he basically kind of spoke to me in song. He's like, "I want to get Atlas Peak Cabernet, and I want to sell it for $15 a bottle and not buy it for, $60, $70 a bottle at the store." I'm like, "That's genius. I totally want to participate in that." And he was like, "Well, you don't know how to sell and wholesale." And I said, "But I know how to build websites." And that's basically was the genesis of when we started Cameron Hughes Wine, which for many people consider the Warby Parker of wine. It's a destination where you get amazing wines at an amazing price from appellations that and that company was eventually purchased by Vintage Wine Estates. When we were purchased by VWE, I was thinking about going off on my own and doing some other stuff. But Terry Wheatley was just so convincing and so awesome. She's like, "Just stay for a month, just try it." And I did, and I've never looked back. She's one of the most amazing dynamic leaders I've ever worked with. Pat has incredible instincts, and I feel very lucky to be part of this organization and for them to value what it is that I do in the industry, which is direct to consumer. That's always been my specialty. And as the industry evolves and comes to terms with the fact that digital is going to be a big part of their lives, whether they like it or not, has been nothing but a benefit for our business.
Well, great. So that's a great life story, and it explains how you got to where you were, and also explains your dual titles, which I have to say I was wondering about that for a while, because everybody I know who's a digital person is pretty nerdy, and you don't seem nerdy, but more marketing. So, but you combine the two. That's excellent. Well, Jessica, is there anything you wish we would have asked you that we didn't ask?
Let's see. You didn't ask me what kind of wine I like.
Okay, what kind of wine do you like?
First, you need to tell me what you like.
Well, I drink really cheap stuff. Let me tell you that.
Tell me. I want to hear.
All right, so I have two or three standbys.
Okay.
One is the Franzia Merlot out of the box.
Yes.
You can. I thought you were going to go. Ugh.
Number one selling product for the wine group. Number one.
Yep, number one selling product, and I actually think it's reasonably decent. But then I have to tell you, I also have no taste buds and a terrible sense of smell. So, so it could be terrible and I wouldn't know it, or it could be great and I wouldn't know it. The second thing that I like is Foxhorn Chardonnay, which is an Australian product. I think it's shipped in bulk over here and then bottled out in Ripon, California, or someplace like that. We do like Behringer Brothers Cabernet bottled bourbon barrel bottles.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we tend to do here in our house is Coppola.
Yes.
Okay.
He does some good stuff. He does some
the Coppola thing is because my daughter is an aspiring actress, and she had some of this down at Walt Disney World when we were down there on a family trip, and at this really expensive steakhouse in the yacht club down there, and she liked it, and so we have to have that every other week, or else she gets dramatic on us.
I love it. So you should definitely get the editor's cup from Coppola, which is the label is insane, and you must visit their winery. I mean, the tasting room is insane. They have like these little gazebos and a pool, and it's just actually super, super cool. I like them a lot. I used to do a lot of work with them and Corey, and I'm a big fan of Coppola. Have you ever noticed that for Franzia box wines, when you go to the store to buy it, that it's always in the way back?
Yes.
Have you ever wondered why?
I can bet why, because you have to walk by your products to get to it.
That's correct. That's correct. So that's like a total inside. I didn't even know that till a couple of years ago. I was just like, why is it all the way back there when it's like the best-selling product? It's because as you walk down the aisle, they're trying to convince you to buy some other products down the aisle. So my favorite wines are, I love New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It's one of my favorite. I'm not usually a white wine drinker, but in general, if I do drink white wine, it's really literally any New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. In fact, Layer Cake makes an awesome New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc that I've been enjoying lately, and it's just delicious and beyond. I am typically a big Barolo drinker. I love Italian wines, and Cameron Hughes Wine does amazing Italian wines. If you go to their website, they always have something going on the import side for Italy. And then, of course, I do like big, hefty, yummy, chewy cabs. And I like everything from Beaulieu Vineyard to Hun to Clos to Swanson to any of our wines that we make within our estates. I think that we have two incredible winemakers that make some amazing, amazing cabs. In fact, one of the acquisitions that we just made is of Cundy. And there's some beautiful Sonoma cabs that their winemaker is making right now that I encourage everyone to try.
Well, that's great. So now we know each other's wine menu. You're more upscale than I am, I think.
No, honestly, it truly is the same in so many ways. I really don't, it's I am very focused when I buy my wines, like you don't, it doesn't cost a lot to make wine. It costs a lot to sell wine. So knowing what you like and finding that product or that brand that is selling it just right is the key to everything. And that's what I try to do through my marketing, is help customers realize their taste buds with a price that is going to meet them at their pocketbook.
So I suppose I now have to ask you, since you opened the door,
Sure.
how successful are you? How are your sales doing?
Well, we are closing up FY21, and because we are a public company, I am not allowed to speak at all about numbers anymore, but I can tell you that for the direct-to-consumer side of the business, this is a well-known fact for everybody within the industry. A result of COVID, if you didn't pivot into your direct sales, you were certainly challenged. So we are going to see higher than normal revenue around direct to consumer simply because of the pandemic. So in my area of the universe, we were able to meet that demand. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in financial year 22 with all the change. It's just like, what's going to happen with the new Delta variant? It's like,
yeah,
I feel like we have no idea what's really going to happen, but I can tell you this. Our tasting rooms are fuller than they've ever been. And you can tell that folks very much want to be out. And that makes me really happy.
So now a question related to your tasting rooms, if we have time for that.
Sure.
That's governed by your calendar, not mine. Do you have two questions, I guess. Number one is, do you have any idea what percentage of your visitors are vaccinated? And number two, are people wearing masks routinely around there, or are they basically going out like they're down in Arkansas?
So great questions, actually. So from the vaccination standpoint, we are not checking vaccination cards, but they just implemented in California, they reinstituted the mask mandate. And so you do now need to wear a mask when you are in the tasting room. Our employees have been wearing masks throughout. Our protocols did not change for them, but now for customers, when they do come to the tasting room, they are asked to wear a mask.
And if I drive up and say, oh, I forgot my mask, or I lost it in the hotel or something, do you have?
We got tons of extras.
Tons of extras. Well, that wasn't the question. I assumed you had those, but are they logoed with one of your wine brands or something like that?
Of course, of course,
excellent.
Of course. But I mean, let's outside, when you're sitting outside of the tasting room and enjoying some of our wines, you do not need to wear a mask. But when you are inside, you do need to wear a mask now. And that just changed this past Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I presume outside you're sort of socially distanced and the wind is blowing and all that. So
yes. And we're very lucky. Our property, we have really, really large, beautiful properties. So there's a lot of space to sit outside. So I think it's still, I think people still want to get out. They still don't want to stay in their homes. They just want to be free, and it's very understandable. And we, luckily enough, I'll tell you, we have not had a lot of pushback from customers around wearing masks. I've seen some horror stories, for restaurants and obviously the airlines, but we've been quite lucky in that we've had just amazing guests, amazing customers who come in, and they're just super supportive. And I kind of feel like when you go to a tasting room, it's like you're going for ice cream. You know how when you walk into an ice cream store, like you're just happy, you're like, I'm getting ice cream. And I think that's really the attitude for many of our customers when they come to our tasting rooms. They're just so happy to be out and to be doing something that they really enjoy.
Yeah, I bet you're right about that. Well, it's been great talking to you.
You too.
And I wish you lots of luck. I hope your shareholder passport program goes on for years and years and years, because it sounds like a really good thing and a way to build, frankly, to build loyalty.
Yes. Absolutely. We've done very little marketing. In fact, I think you're one of the first who's actually covered it. And it's like going gangbusters. So we can tell that the program is very desired. So I think you I'm really glad that you're one of the first to really talk about it, because it is doing very well. So thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very much. It's been a delight having you with us today. Jessica Kogan, who's the Chief Marketing Officer and the Chief Digital Officer for Vintage Wine Estates, which is actually, I think it's a pretty innovative company, and obviously you're a big part of the innovation process. So congratulations on all of that. And we'll look forward to seeing what your earnings look like when they come out. So thanks so much, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And bye-bye, everybody. Have a very great day, and we'll see you again soon.